Hi. We've all heard sweeping claims about Henry VIII and his 6 wives, how his relationships were plagued with reproductive problems, and how Anne Boleyn, his second wife, supposedly had a series of miscarriages. But what's the truth behind these statements? In my talk today, I want to delve into the reproductive histories of Henry's wives, debunk some myths, and offer some fascinating insights into what really might have been going on. From Catherine of Aragon's stillbirths to the much discussed theory of Henry's potential Kell positive blood type, I'm going to try and separate fact from fiction. I recently did a video about Catherine of Aragon's stillbirths and whether a factor in them was her rather obsessive and definitely excessive fasting. Well, I received a fair few comments on YouTube and social media saying that Henry VIII must be to blame because all of his wives had problems and that Anne Boleyn had a series of miscarriages. But those two statements just aren't true. Catherine of Aragon definitely had problems. As I explained, she had at least 6 pregnancies and 4 of those sadly ended in stillbirth. But Anne Boleyn didn't have a series of miscarriages or stillbirths. She had a successful pregnancy in 1533, giving birth to a healthy daughter, the future Elizabeth I. Then, in the summer of 1534, she was recorded as being heavily pregnant, so much so that a journey across the Channel to meet with King Francis I was postponed. However, that pregnancy then disappears from the records, so it's likely that it ended in a stillbirth, one that the couple really didn't want attention being drawn to after Catherine's record. The couple returned from their royal progress to the southwest in 1535, a pregnancy that ended at about the 3.5 months mark in a miscarriage. Now, this is far from a series of miscarriages. And a miscarriage at that stage of pregnancy is sadly far from uncommon even today. And I'm not sure that a woman suffering one stillbirth was anything unusual in that time either. And I know women today who've gone through that. So please, can we stop talking about Anne Boleyn's series of miscarriages? Thank you. As for Henry VIII's other 4 wives, Jane Seymour gave birth to a healthy baby boy in October 1537, so she must have conceived in that January. So about 8 months, I think I've counted that correctly, after her marriage to Henry. That doesn't seem unusual. And contrary to some of the comments I received, her baby, the future King Edward VI, was not sickly. Yes, he died young in his teens of some kind of pulmonary infection, but he'd recently suffered measles and smallpox at the same time, and that was bound to affect his immunity and make him vulnerable. But he wasn't described as a sickly boy before that. Then we have Anne of Cleves. Well, as Henry VIII admitted, their relationship was never consummated. We know from a note that was read out by George Boleyn, Anne Boleyn's brother, at his trial, that by 1536, Henry VIII had been having problems in the bedroom. Problems, how can I say this? Getting it up. Erectile dysfunction, by the sounds of it. And this seemed to be affecting him in 1540, particularly as he didn't really fancy Anne of Cleves. She just didn't appeal to him. We know that he told his physicians that he'd been unable to have sex with her, but that he'd had some wet dreams. Now, I don't think he tried much with Anne of Cleves, and of course the marriage was annulled after just a few months. He moved on to his wife's maid of honour, the young Catherine Howard, a girl he really did fancy, and someone who seems to have given him a new lease of life. Suddenly, he was going out hunting again and being active. And at one point, Catherine believed that she was pregnant, so there must have been some activity in the bedroom at least. The marriage didn't last long, though. They married in July 1540, and everything came crashing down in November 1541. So there wasn't exactly much chance for Catherine Howard to get pregnant. Henry VIII's final wife was Catherine Parr. Catherine had been married twice before and was about 31 when she married Henry VIII in 1543. As far as we know, she hadn't become pregnant in either of her other two marriages. But then she wasn't really an important woman, not enough for records to have been written about her pregnancies and or losses. And she didn't become pregnant during her 3.5-year marriage to the king. Well, I rather think that Henry was a bit past it by this point. His health was a real problem by this time. But Catherine did go on to have a daughter by her fourth husband, Thomas Seymour, in 1548. Okay, so 3 out of 6 of his wives didn't become pregnant by Henry VIII. But I fail to see that as them having problems. There are interesting theories regarding Henry VIII having problems, such as him having a Kell positive blood type, which can cause problems after the first pregnancy if his partner is Kell negative. As Kyra Kramer points out, her body would attack a Kell positive fetus as foreign, and the result is fetal or neonatal death. It's a compelling theory, and I'll add links to Kyra's articles, which I published on the Anne Boleyn files. I'll add those to the description for you for further reading. But I'm not sure we can even say that Henry VIII had reproductive problems apart from erectile dysfunction, which, according to the Cleveland Clinic website, affects over 50% of men aged 40 to 70 today. Henry VIII was nearly 45 in 1536 when Anne Boleyn fell. And that's when we have the first mention of him having trouble in the bedroom. Henry got Catherine of Aragon pregnant 6 times, at least 6 times. He had a son by Bessie Blunt and possibly a daughter by her too. He got Anne Boleyn pregnant 3 times and then Jane Seymour once. And some people think he fathered at least one of Mary Boleyn's children, and he may well have fathered others. So, in conclusion, I don't think we can talk about him or all of his wives having problems having children, do you? There, I'll get down off my soapbox now. Thank you so much for tuning in and letting me have this bit of a rant, bit of a soapbox rant. I do enjoy these types of videos. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please do share your views in the comments. I always love hearing from you. Take care. Bye-bye.